Hey guys, Lightning Sword here. I understand that this is kind of informal, and I apologize for the delay in my review of the latest episode of My Little Pony, but I just could not bring myself to review this episode, and you deserve to know why. I hated it. I absolutely despised No Second Prances. I want to start with Starlight Glimmer. I've said before in my review of the Crystalling that I have a huge problem with the way Starlight's character is being handled, and a lot of people did. But I never really had anything against her as a character. I mean, I didn't hate her, I just hated the way she was being handled. As of this episode, I hate Starlight Glimmer, officially. In the episode, she was shown to be able to use incredibly effortless magic to be able to do pretty much anything. She could set tables and bake cakes and force Big Macintosh to talk when he didn't want to. And even without her magic, she was able to befriend Angel Bunny easily. And Angel Bunny doesn't put up with anybody. You've seen him. With all this, I have more than sufficient reason to believe that she is a blatant, self insert, wish fulfillment character. She's basically a Mary Sue at this point. And the fact that she has this tragic backstory and she has a need to make friends and she's clumsy and socially awkward and has really tasteless humor. It's like the writers are trying to force us to like her. I mean, they really don't have to do that. If they could just give her some characterization, we wouldn't have to. But she has no character, she has no personality. She just has abilities and a scarring backstory, and she doesn't know how to handle herself socially. That's just about it. There's no substance to her, and it's just, to me, it's just lazy. The only thing that she's missing is a red and black coat. That's basically how bad it is for me. The next thing I want to point out is Twilight. She is just. She's not even Twilight in this episode. She is so completely out of character that it's just painful. It's absolutely cringeworthy to watch her in this episode. When she meets up with Trixie again, there's clearly still some animosity, and the feeling is completely mutual. When she obviously gave Trixie another chance at the end of Magic Duel, it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to forgive her, then that means that you trust her not to be able to do anything bad again, and you clearly don't, Twilight. And then there's Trixie. Yes, she's a fan favorite, and I understand that, but I find her completely overrated, among the most overrated characters in the entire fandom. She's obnoxious, she's a braggart, she puts her own ego and her own need to one up Twilight first throughout the whole episode. Now, I genuinely believe that she wanted to be Starlight's friend. I do, but I honestly don't think she's capable after admitting straight out early on in the episode that she's obsessed with being better than Twilight. And then at the end, she even says, "Your pupil chose me over you. I win. I'm finally better than you." Right in front of Starlight. In front of this friend that she supposedly wants to keep. And she only realizes what she did wrong afterwards. Now, if she were a real friend, or at least if she wanted to be a real friend, she would have realized that first. She would have put Starlight's feelings before her own. Now, I promised myself I wouldn't go on a big rant, but it just seemed like every character in this episode was off. When Pinky introduced Starlight to Mrs. Cake, she got all mad, and I don't think we've ever seen Mrs. Cake get mad before. I mean, I kind of understand, but she took it a little too far. When Celestia was invited over to the palace, she's completely joyless. And I don't even want to mention the insult they did to Fluttershy's character. During Trixie's show, when they brought out the Manticore, she's shown to be afraid of it. She showed no fear towards Manticores in the second episode of the entire show. It's insulting to me as a Fluttershy fan. her character has regressed a few times. I will admit that. But this, it's just offensive. They played up this moment purely for comic relief, and it's just insulting. And Twilight being unable to trust Trixie, but being able to trust the pony that did all the things that happened in the season 5 opening and the season 5 finale. Trixie's crimes weren't even a fraction that bad, and she still distrusts her, but still cares about Starlight? It just doesn't make any sense. Nothing Twilight did in this episode made any sense at all. Especially at the end when Twilight admits she was wrong to Starlight to get her to cheer up and help her friend. She was not wrong. She was absolutely right. Trixie stated outright that she saw this as a victory over Twilight. To have befriended Starlight and for Starlight to prefer Trixie over Twilight. She saw that as a victory for herself. Twilight was right all along. She had no reason to believe Trixie was being sincere, because Trixie was still being her usual smug, arrogant self. And it seems like she's just completely blind to reality whenever Starlight is on screen. She forgave Starlight instantly, took her on as her student, ignored her clear need to avoid earning her forgiveness, her need to avoid Sunburst, for example, blindly trusts her trust in Sunburst when the Crystal Heart was destroyed. She distrusts Trixie after clearly forgiving her for Magic Duel. And all of a sudden she says she's wrong? And then she says that she's only looking out for Starlight when she tries to make friends for her, but then at that scene at the banquet, all she's doing is trying to make herself look good in front of Celestia, and I find that absolutely deplorable. Twilight's character was basically ruined in this episode. Twilight was such a good character before. She had learned so much and evolved so much. And every time she's around Starlight, it's like common sense is just gone in her mind. I just don't understand why she had to be written like this. Starlight does nothing but whine about her backstory, and she's not interested in earning the forgiveness she was handed. Trixie is whining about the second chance she was never given, despite having clearly been forgiven. This episode was just a mess, an absolute train wreck of characterization. You have to root for someone, and the episode doesn't make it clear who's in the right and who's in the wrong, and some people say that that's a good thing. I don't. I mean, you want to be able to root for Twilight because she's been the main character since day one, and if you can't root for her, what's the point? You want to be able to root for Trixie because she's trying to be a good pony and she's trying to be a good character, but she's also trying with some effort to put herself before everything else. And if you can't root for her because of that reason, what's the point? And it tries to get you to root for Starlight way too hard. So hard that you can't root for her at all. I promised I wouldn't go on this big, huge rant because the way I reacted to Starlight Glimmer in the past has come under scrutiny on the internet. It's not something I'm proud of. There's a website. It's basically a tabloid for fanfiction.net called the Full Free Press. They did an article about me and a group I started that promotes the idea that Starlight doesn't deserve the ease of the forgiveness she was given. It was humiliating. It got to be so bad for me that I've had to fly under the radar for a long time to make sure it wouldn't happen again. It's been so long since then, but it still scares me. I don't want that to happen to me again. I don't want this to be a continuation of that. But I also wanted to treat you viewers with some respect. I wanted you to know and understand why it had to be done like this. I apologize for not giving this episode the proper review it deserves, but I also didn't want to go absolutely crazy tearing this episode apart the way it deserves. You deserve a proper and sane and calm review, and I just couldn't provide that. I wanted you to understand why, and I hope you'll accept my apology. But I promise for the next episode I will do a proper review. I won't just bore you with my voice and one picture for 10 minutes. I will do an honest and straight review next time. I give you my word. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening, everyone.